What is up, guys? This is Jay Morales. I want to welcome you guys to another tutorial that I'm doing. Last week I was covering the basics of Ableton Live. Today we're going to start going one by one with the different instruments of Ableton Live. So today specifically we're going to cover Simpler, which is one of my extremely favorite instruments from Ableton Live. So let's get to it. Cool, so now we are here in Ableton Live. We're gonna fire this baby up, and today we are gonna cover Simpler. So all we gotta do is go to Instruments, pick a Simpler, and just drop it in the arrangement view. Cool, and when I mean arrangement or session view, it's just the switch between these two. Remember, it's a tab. Anyway, this is one of my favorite instruments from Ableton Live. I'm just going to drop a sample in here so we can get started. This sample right here. Just going to pop it in here. So this is a very versatile instrument as far as Ableton goes. It's basically a sample-based instrument, so you can pick any of your samples and drop it in here. And the beauty of it is that you're able to manipulate it a number of ways. So first of all, let's look at the actual interface. So right here, this is the on and off button. If you want a shortcut for that, it's just 0. It turns on and off in Instrument Rack. This is new, I think, for the latest two Ableton versions. If you click this little triangle right here, it pops up real big in your screen. So you're able to see the entire waveform, which is super cool. Now, there's 3 different types of ways that you can use the sample. So there's the classic, which is just, you just go through the whole sample. There's one shot, which if you press it, it actually runs through the entire sample when you press any key on your keyboard. So it doesn't stop when you release the key. It actually plays everything all the way through. And then slice. If we had, let's say, something like a loop, it would be spread across your keyboard, and then you would have different sections right here where you can choose. Let me see if I got something. Yeah, like something like this. You see how there's different sections? So you can actually use up all those sections as different samples. But let's go back to our, okay, right here. So cool, you have 3 different ones: classic, one shot, and a slice. Ooh, damn, thunderstorms. Anyway, so in the classic view, you have a few different things down here, which is gain, so you can actually turn the volume up or down of the actual waveform on the go, so you don't actually have to do it from here. This is kind of your output volume, but you can actually turn it up right here in the sample, which is really cool. The start, this is where you want your loop to start. Pretty self-explanatory. This loop section we'll use when we go to the loop feature. Length, this is the length of the actual sample. The fade, that also goes with the loop section. Voices, this is if you have something that's a polyphonic sound. You can actually choose how many voices the Simpler plays back. And then retrigger, this is if you want the sample to retrigger every time you click. Cool. Warp, this is the way that Ableton warps WAV files or AIF files. There's a bunch of different types. I like to go with Complex Pro. It's probably the most advanced out of them all. I'll cover in another tutorial what they all do, but feel free to, you know, mess around with all the different types of warping features. And then you can choose how many bars you want to warp it as. This one, with the 2 dots and a 2, it actually divides the sample by 2. And then if you have the little star with the 2, it actually doubles it. So, all right. Now, if you go to the loop function, you press loop, and you see now it turns blue. So what is happening now is that you're able to loop this as if it was a continuous note. So if I press, it'll just keep looping. So this is where this loop feature comes into play. So if you see it's at 100%, but if I keep moving it, it slowly moves into smaller and smaller amounts. So you can actually choose where the sample loops. The fade, this is really helpful if you have really sharp sounds, so you seamlessly are able to make something play so you don't have any clicks or anything like that, which is really cool. Let's see here, I'll give you an example. Alright, so let's fade this in. Maybe start a little later. You see how that affects it? And then the fade as well. It gets pretty clicky, and now it turns more into a continuous sound. So the possibilities with this are really awesome, just because you can turn, you know, a clap into a sound or a vocal or anything like that. You can turn it into a pad or some kind of constant note. So play with that. It's a really cool way to get creative results out of something. All right, the one shot, same deal, but remember it plays the entire note right away. If you choose gate, what happens is as soon as you let go of your key, once you hit it, it'll stop. You see? So it acts as an actual gate. And then you can snap it to grid right here. And that's for, you know, things that are more snappy, maybe drum loops or something like that. Same deal with the warping here, no change. Then the slice, same deal as the trigger and gate. Slice by transient, beat, region, or manual. So this is, like I said, for something that's maybe more percussive like this, you can actually choose different types of slicing. Or you can manually, you know, do your slicing, which is cool. You just double click and put your slices wherever you want, and you can move them around. For drums, usually use the transient one. It actually is pretty smart at doing that, and it goes all the way to the actual transient of the sound. The sensitivity, as you can see, it turns blue as I turn it more sensitive or less sensitive. Cool. And then playback, you can choose mono, poly, or all the way through. Warping, same deal. All right, so those are the 3 different kinds of samplers within the sampler that you can use. So let's go back to this sound right here. Now at the bottom you have a filter. This is the on and off switch right here. An LFO, on and off switch. Fade in and fade out. This is if the sound is in one shot or slice mode, it actually fades in the sound. So it almost asks, it almost plays as an attack control. Same deal with the fade out. You can see it right here. Fade in, fade out. So that will help you avoid clicks and stuff like that. Transpose, self-explanatory. You just choose how many semitones you want it to go down. Cool. Velocity. This is something that you use if you wanna use it as a groove component, or you just wanna create a little bit of variation within your sample. So the harder you hit it, the harder it's gonna be, and the lower you hit it, the lower it's gonna be. So the lower it's gonna sound. So if you turn it up to 100%, it'll be really, really sensitive to when you touch your keyboard, which is, you know, kind of cool. All right, volume. This is your output volume for the entire rack. Cool. So now the filter. Let's go back to this classic view. And you'll see here as I'm clicking through, if you double click something, it goes back to its original position. So, all right, so the filter. So you'll see it down here, but the actual controls for this filter right here is going to be right here. Boom. So you can turn it on and off, like I said. You can use this little circle to move it. This is to, you can sweep it. You can also do it from here, which is the same thing. You have the resonance, which gives you that acid. They use a lot of acid. Anyway, you have the type of filter, so high pass, low pass, band pass, bell, and I think this is a morph of the two. So let's say band pass. You also have in the resonance, if you choose a different type of filter like OSR, you'll see that you can actually drive the output. There's a bunch of different kind of emulations. I think this is from I think it's a Korg, if I'm not mistaken, MS2. I really like this one. It's one of my favorites. Kind of very crunchy and fuzzy. And then the PRD is also one of my favorites. Cool. So that can give you a little bit of extra crunch with your sounds and make it pop out of the mix a little bit. Same deal here with the filter. You have velocity controls. So the velocity will be specifically for this envelope area. So for the envelope area, you can actually shape the envelope of the sound. So if you click here, you'll see that this pops up, and what will happen is if I start moving this, you'll see that this is kind of an attack, decay, sustain, and release. So it's an ADSR envelope. What that means is it'll this is how the filter is gonna sound when you actually play the sound through. So in order to get the effect, you just have to turn the amount all the way up. You see? So if you turn the filter, you start to see that the envelope's starting to shape the way that the sound is acting with relationship to the filter. So this is really cool if you want to get just a little bit of a snappy sound out of something, or maybe if you want something pretty cool. Okay, next we'll tune this filter envelope up for now. Okay, go back to frequency. Let's turn this up a little bit. And this velocity. Now, the LFO, this is low frequency oscillator, so there's different types of waves that you can use. The attack is how long it'll take for the LFO to take effect. So let's see if we can make it. You see, it starts to take effect on the volume. You can also use it to affect the pitch. So okay. Now you can also use it for panning. So it'll pan your sound. It'll filter through. You can do those wobbly dubstep. Okay. We have key. So this is pretty much how much the LFO is affected by the actual key of the sound that's coming in. The offset, it actually moves the degrees of the LFO. And then now here you can either choose hertz if you want to get really surgical, or you can also choose steps. So, and the smaller you make it, the more it wobbles. So, pretty cool. Okay. Now we move on to the pitch envelope. So this, like it says, it regulates the pitch of the actual sound. So if you wanted to alter it, you could just move this down here, and then you would choose the amount of semitones that you want it to be affected by. So let's say you wanted to go a whole 12 semitones up. You see it goes, it goes, so depending on how you move this right here, this is the trajectory of the pitch which it's gonna follow. So you can kind of mess around with this, and you get all types of different sounds, which is really cool. You can also mess with the amplitude, which is pretty much the volume of the sound. Super easy. You can use loop, beat, which it actually repeats. It's almost like a loop. Same deal with this. And then you can choose the time in milliseconds of the actual loop. You can sync it. So this will be cool if you want to. Almost do an arpeggiator type of thing. Haha, there you go. Pretty cool, right? Alright, we will leave this alone and go to pitch. Right here you can choose attack, decay, sustain, release. These are these different controls right here. You can see them moving. And then down here you can choose panning. Pretty self-explanatory, left or right. This is random panning, so it'll pan the sound randomly. And depending on how much you have, it'll kind of throw it around in the stereo field. The spread, this will actually stereoize your sound. Velocity, this is actually the amount of volume that it gives it when you hit a key in your keyboard. Transposition, this is just one semitone. Pretty much means when you go on the keyboard from one key to the next one, that's one semitone, and then on and on and on. You can detune by sense as well. Glide, this is this is the transition between pitches. So you can either do portamento, which portamento is used polyphonically, and then you see, and then you can choose the amount. And then glide is used for monophonic sound. So you see, ooh, it kind of goes ooh, ooh. Okay. It doesn't just cut off, it kind of transitions into the other, into the next note. You see? And then right here, this is kind of the same deal as the pitch envelope, but for the actual volume or control of the sample. So let's go back to the sample. So the attack is how much at the beginning of the sound you're gonna get. Decay, how long it takes to for it to die down. Sustain, how long it stays at full volume. And then release, how long it takes to release the end of the sound. So if I turn all this down, you see this? So you can play. This is similar to that fade in and fade out. It just has two more controls. And then the volume right at the end. What else? I think that's all the controls. You can also click right here to save a preset. You just click right here, save, and it actually saves a preset for you already within Ableton, so you can use it later. But we're going to delete that. Did I miss anything? And then right here you can actually switch out simpler on the fly for either another sample, or you can use some of the presets that come here in Ableton, which are pretty cool. Like this one's pretty cool. Pretty cool. You can do duetto. Dope. Okay. Cool. And that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next instrument of Ableton Live. Peace.